You ever seen a situation where someone is supposed to pay to get into a service or whatever it is they're trying to get, and they get away with it? I have. I've seen it with people on public transportation in Toronto, but it's apparently just completely out of control in Vancouver. Rachel Siegel is here, and we have Jordan Bateman. I almost called you Jason. Sorry about that. Jordan Bateman joining us as well in Vancouver. So Jordan, if you get on the bus in Vancouver and you don't pay, the bus driver does what?
Well, every bus in Vancouver is equipped with a little button. It's called the Fare Not Paid button. So technically the driver is supposed to press that button every time someone gets on who doesn't pay. Now, I'm told anecdotally by many drivers they've just given up on pressing it because nothing ever changes when they do. But still, in 2013, that button was pressed 2.7 million times. 2.76
million times, which at $275, is that a ride in Vancouver? $7.6 million. And as Jordan said, nothing's happening. So it could be way beyond that, because the bus drivers have just said, what's the point?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. You know, it's at this point, why does anybody even pay?
Exactly. And what's more ridiculous is that now the Council of Mayors, so 23 mayors in Metro Vancouver, are asking British Columbians to vote in a referendum starting in a couple of weeks about whether or not British Columbians want to pay 0.5% more on the sale of goods in a specific area of the province. So asking these taxpayers to pay more when we've seen so many examples of taxpayer waste when it comes to transit in Vancouver. I was actually in Vancouver last week, and I looked at one area of that waste, and that being our subway system, the Canada Line and the SkyTrain. The Canada Line was put in 2008, prior to the Olympics. The fare evasion gates were put in only 2.5 years ago, but they actually remain open. So I posed the question to TransLink, who operates transit in Vancouver, why have those gates not been closed? They actually provided me with a statement that said the gates will be in use once the Compass Card program rollout is complete, because customers require Compass Cards to access the fare gates when they close. The primary challenge has been improving the speed and reliability of the bus mobile validators. The contractor is making progress but requires additional time to resolve technical issues. In 2013, it was estimated that keeping these gates open, Jerry, cost taxpayers $18.4 million in fare evasion alone.
And that's on top of this other problem that we're talking about. Jordan, I don't understand why it takes transit systems, we see this in Toronto as well, years to come up with a card. Give it to Tim's, for God's sake. Their card works.
Yeah, you know, fare evasion on the TransLink system has cost taxpayers $250 million since the year 2000. So this is quite a significant thing, and it's growing year after year. This same FOI request was done 2 years previous and found the button was pressed 2.1 million times. And what happens is the honest people get on the bus, they see the freeloaders get on and not pay, they see there's no consequences for that, and guess what happens the next time they don't have the right change? They don't pay either. And this is kind of like a cancer spreading throughout the system, and it can all be solved by installing these Compass Cards, but TransLink can't even do that right.
Well, can you get on the bus? I have not traveled around on public transportation except once from the airport in Vancouver, I admit. And I mean, I like the city. I don't like a lot of the ideas that come out of it, but I like the city itself.
It's a great city.
Can you throw in a fistful of change?
When
you get on the bus?
When you get on the bus, yes, exactly. You can throw
so
in a fistful of change.
It could be 50 cents as opposed to $2.75.
Definitely.
Just to pretend that you're actually doing it.
But you talk about going from the airport to downtown. That's the Canada Line, where there are no fare evasion gates. There are people who do check for fares, and people do get fines on that system.
I was checked.
Yeah, so that does happen, but the point is $18.4 million in taxpayer savings could happen by simply getting their act together and getting this Compass program up and running and closing those gates. I actually reached out to the BC Minister of Transportation on this issue as well to ask him why they're not closed. He said that in support of the Compass Card program, the BC government has invested more than $40 million in fare gates across the SkyTrain and CBus network. TransLink is responsible for the implementation of Compass Cards and is accountable to taxpayers and transit users. We expect the system to be up and running as soon as possible. But Jerry, why is the minister who's allocating these $40 million to put up those gates not taking responsibility for the allocation of that money, of those taxpayer dollars?
Jordan, is there any indication how that vote's going to go as to whether people in BC want to pay for this?
Well, we still have 2 months before the first mail-in ballots show up, so it's a long way to go. But right now, the no side is growing. The latest polling actually is the no side up. And in people who have decided how they're going to vote, the no side is slightly ahead. But the yes side, TransLink and the provincial government and all these cities, they're already planning to pour $4 million of taxpayer money into their yes campaign. Plus, the city of Vancouver and city of Surrey have voted to spend more money. We're talking about $5, $6, maybe $7 million of taxpayer money being spent to educate us peons that we should be voting for this tax.
Well, yet they don't have that $4 million to spend to try and fix the situation.
Exactly.
By the way, I want to reemphasize, I wasn't kidding or even being snarky when I said that, you know, these transit systems should give over the card management system to somebody like Tim's. The Tim's card works.
Yeah.
It's not complicated technology in 2015.
No.
It's just not.
Exactly, and that's the major point here. It's not complicated. This is something that other major cities in Canada already have up and running, so why they're inventing the wheel on this program and costing millions and millions of dollars while asking taxpayers for more money through this referendum is beyond me.
Are there politicians, at least, Jordan, who are working on the no side and calling for other politicians to get their act together?
Yeah, only 3 of the region's 23 mayors support a no vote. One of them, Derek Corrigan, is a former chair of the TransLink board, and he's calling for a no vote because he calls TransLink the beast that eats money. And we'd say that now taxpayers are being asked to spread a big buffet out in front of it.
So, and also Mayor Gregor Robertson, the mayor of Vancouver, who sits on this council of mayors, I reached out to his office for comment on this 6 or 7 times and received no comment back. But we did ask him about this about a month ago, and I have a clip also where he kind of bullies taxpayers into thinking that unless they vote yes in this referendum, this infrastructure will never be built, which obviously is not true. We'll take a look at that.
All of the investment in transit right now relies on the transit referendum being approved by voters in the spring. So that's what we got to focus our efforts on, is building that support, making sure people understand the value in a new investment in transit for reducing congestion and reducing pollution, and that's going to be a critical piece for this next couple months.
It's pretty much the taxpayers' fault. If they don't come up with the money, then we can't get this done. I realize that more money is needed than what would be collected if you made every single rider pay. But wouldn't you feel better? I can't vote in this. I don't live in Vancouver. But wouldn't you feel better about it if you were voting for a competent system?
Exactly. You know, fix some of the problems that we're seeing every day in practice before you come to taxpayers and ask for more money. And no, Gregor, you know, that's not the only option. Maybe we should look at other areas of taxpayer waste and how we can afford this infrastructure, which is so necessary in these cities, by, you know, just stopping the pipeline of money. You
know, it's easy to get the impression, Jordan, from way over here in Toronto, and I think I had this when I lived in the prairies as well, that people on the West Coast think of themselves as caring for one another and better at that than the rest of us because they're so lefty and touchy-feely. But by golly, get a chance to rip off the transit system, and they do it en masse.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have a different plan for how they could fund transportation improvements. It's at notranslinktax.ca/betterplan. Simply by earmarking 0.5% of their future growth over the next decade, they could more than make up the money for this sales tax, but they'll never do it because they'd much rather just ding the taxpayers for more.
I thank both of you. Thanks very much.
Thanks.